Chihiro Suzuki versus Kashiga Dalbec. This fight, obviously both these guys are going to be looking at a title shot next, or at least that's what should be on their mind. Suzuki losing the belt, Dalbec knowing that he's the former champ, it's going to put him on the map. So I think this is a really exciting fight to watch, co-main event for a reason. It should probably play out on the feet. However, Dalbec showed his last time out against your man that if he gets a little bit of pressure and he feels it, he has the ability to take the fight to the mat should he choose to do so. Both these guys. So Chihiro Suzuki, he needs to use his speed and his aggressiveness. He's a forward pressure fighter with heavy punching. We've seen that. He's the only person to ever finish Pitbull. So he knocked him out, and that's the only person to ever do that. So the guy has power in his hands, but he has to come forward. He has to put pressure on. Again, he needs to create mistakes. So your man put pressure on Dalbec last time out, and it forced some errors. He landed some big clean shots, and again, he forced the wrestling out of Dalbec. So, I think he needs to be pushing forward. He needs to be aggressive. He needs to use his speed. And of course, if he wants to win this fight and he doesn't win it by knockout, he needs, to really make sure his defensive wrestling is on point. So his sprawl and brawl game is really going to get the win for him. But on the other hand, for Dalbec, his keys to victory are using his range and his clean striking. He does that. He has beautiful striking. He just needs to keep the distance a little bit, pick his shots, maybe try to avoid getting stuck into a brawl. But he will still need to find a way to back Suzuki up and land those clean shots and just make sure he's controlling the center of the ring. And again, I think he has a little bit of an upper hand here with the wrestling, so he could probably look to take the fight to the mat. It's not the most exciting style unless you're going for a finish, but it'll get you a victory when you're on the cusp of a title shot. So again, use of range, clean striking, forward pressure, and mix up the wrestling to get the win on Sunday for Rizin 50 for Kashiga Dalbec. That fight's going to be a banger, guys. Absolutely do not miss that one. I'm super excited for it. Absolute classic, fight of the year contender before it even starts. But Luis Gustavo versus Shunta Nomura. Gustavo is a forward pressure fighter. We've seen it before. It's both a double-edged sword. Sometimes he comes undone, and other times he wins in emphatic fashion in exciting knockouts. So both these guys have 50% knockout rates. So 7 knockouts for Gustavo, 4 for Nomura, karate style for Nomura. So with these guys, are definitely going to look for a knockout or to put this fight on the map globally. That people are going to be watching this one for sure. So Gustavo's keys to victory against Nomura is striking precision. He can't be winging and missing against someone who has a very, very precise striking game. So he needs to be on point with his strikes. He needs to be landing clean, even if he's not getting the knockout. As always, forward pressure, controlling the pace of the fight, which when he pulls the trigger is one pace anyway. And defensive awareness. He just needs to be aware when he's swinging that he needs to have good defense, because as he starts to brawl, he starts to drop his hands, which a lot of fighters do, but that's where he comes undone. So yeah, defensive awareness, striking precision, and the usual Gustavo style of forward pressure. But one thing that he does have that I guess because of his style a lot of people overlook is he's got 5 submissions on his record. He has the ability to get a sub. High level jiu-jitsu, just chooses not to use it because of the legend Vanderlei Silva and obviously his inspiration, which he's talked about in the past. So if he wanted to take the fight to the ground, he really could. Just likes exciting knockouts, and who doesn't? On the other hand, Nomura and his keys to victory, there's karate style, long history of karate accomplishments. And anyone that's watched heaps of karate or done it or been part of it knows that the distance they can cover from point A to point B and the pace in which they can cover that is crazy. So I think that he needs to use his speed to get in, get out quicker. He needs to use movement. He needs to use his angles. If he can tire out Gustavo and make him chase him, get in, get out, land some good clean shots, but he can use his angles to force him to chase him and then reset. He'll fatigue him early, and then he can get in and get out nice and quick later on in the fight, and he'll look for that finish. Look, both these guys have, absolute cracking power and finishing capabilities, and I would say if you want to tune in for a fight on Rizin 50, I would not miss that one for sure. And of course, main event, bantamweight title on the line. Naoki Inoue, Yuki Matoya. These guys will face off in a long anticipated bout. Was meant to happen last year, did not because Inoue had injury. So Yuki Matoya actually took another fight against a young prospect and, threw up the risk of losing a title shot, but came out victorious nonetheless. And so finally, we get the bantamweight title matchup come to you on Sunday, which headlines Rizin 50. So, guys, I like both these guys. They're so good, so methodical. The striking is what it needs to be. Their submission and grappling game is insane. I think that Inoue's keys to victory for this fight is to control the rhythm of the striking and use his distance. He's quite a tall bantamweight, and he has beautiful striking. He strikes from a really long range. So I think if he can find the rhythm to use that distance, he'll control most of the fight on the feet, or has the ability to do so. Footwork and creating angles, so as Matoya doesn't have the opportunity to initiate the takedown. And then, of course, when he wants to, he's got a lot of submissions on his record, 9, I believe. He can take the fight to the ground, but he needs to do it on his terms. But I think he has, range on his side, so he really should use that striking to find the rhythm and use the distance and then engage when he's ready in the takedown. Matoya, on the other hand, phenomenal grappler, 14 submission wins. He also has 8 knockouts, so he's got power and timing. His work rate's a little lower. He's a little bit of a slow starter, but I think if he's proactive on the feet and he can control the pace, put a little bit of pressure on, the lesser experienced fighter, but the champ nonetheless, then I think maybe he could probably look for a knockout. But again, phenomenal grappler, wants to fight on the ground most likely. He'll need to do that on his terms. And I think, guys, the difference in this fight will be who initiates the grappling, who controls the grappling, and who's one step ahead. I think the rest is very even. I think these guys are so even across the board. The difference is that Matoya probably has the experience, but they're super even everywhere. Whoever is in control of the grappling and one step ahead will win Sunday's title fight between Naoki Inoue and Yuki Matoya for the Rizin Bantamweight Championship.